So I'm out here cleaning up leaves, guys, and I wanted to make a quick video to show you exactly how I'm doing it, what made a impossible, horrible job with a rake into a very easy job with a couple of power tools from Home Depot. So as you can see, my house is completely surrounded with these enormous trees, and we have had leaves falling for about 2 months now. My son cleaned up all the leaves twice, and when we got back from our road trip, this yard was completely covered. All this discoloration you see on the road here, that was all one ginormous pile of leaves when we pulled in. So as you can see, I've been working on making piles of leaves here in the yard. Let me show you the side here so you can get an idea of this blanket of leaves that I've been dealing with. It was all over here. You couldn't even see any of the mulch. Look at this. Look how thick this is right here. It was like this over the entire yard here, guys. All the way back through the back here. This has been blown up a little bit here. This whole blanket of leaves here. And then all of this was covered back here. I've also been working on that a little bit back there. I actually pulled out my rake, but I have not touched it in making these piles of leaves here. The only thing I've used is this 60-volt brushless battery-powered leaf blower that I got at Home Depot. And let me tell you, this thing is a lifesaver. Raking this yard with a typical rake would have just left blisters on my hands and it would have sucked so bad. But using this thing has been totally awesome. Not only do you feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger while you're using it, but this thing will make a pile of leaves out of all this in a matter of minutes where it would take you an hour with a rake. There it is, guys, no joke. 2 minutes and 14 seconds from the time I hit the record button, and we created this pile of leaves from everything that was over here blanketing the yard using this monster right here. Now, this is not a sponsored video, guys. I'm just telling you, I wish I had a video like this to watch before I started doing these leaves so that I could just go out, buy the stuff, and be done with it instead of doing all this research and putting all this time into trying to figure out how to get these leaves done with minimal time and effort. Now, before we move on to the leaf vacuum, which is equally as awesome, I want to be fair and give you some of the pros and cons of this leaf blower. Now, I think the pros are obvious from what you've already seen. It minimizes your workload. You've seen what it just did in 2 minutes. It saves your hands from blisters and pain, and the power behind this thing is just absolutely amazing. So that's the good stuff. Let me tell you what I found out about this thing that leans toward the bad side. Number one, it is very heavy. The unit itself is not too bad, but it's the battery that makes it heavy. This thing is enormous. Look at the size of this battery. You can see just how big it is in comparing it to my hand. But it has to be big to produce that kind of power. This does come with its own charger here. Slide it right on, and as it's charging, this light will blink. The other thing that adds to the difficulty of this is one of the things that makes it so great, and that is the power. It has so much power that you really have to hold it tight to control it. However, it does have this little switch that when you pull this in, you can pull this down and it'll hold the switch on. Only problem with that is that if you use that switch and you leave the power on consistently, it drains your battery faster. If you pull the trigger and you put that switch down and leave it on consistently, you're going to be lucky to get about 20 minutes of power out of this thing. If you just use the trigger and you use it intermittently, it's going to last you a lot longer. Plus, you'll be able to take breaks and recharge during the break. And speaking of recharging, if you let this battery go completely dead, you better plan on recharging it overnight because it takes a while. The last thing on the negative list is the price. This thing was close to $400, guys. Now, maybe in the off season you'd be able to get it for a cheaper price, but what you have to keep in mind is that when you buy this, you're not buying it to use once and then you're done. You're going to be using it for many seasons to come. So you have to look at it sort of like a lawnmower. Every summer you use your lawnmower all summer long, and it's the same thing with this. Every time fall comes around, you're going to use this for about 2 months straight. And I'm going to tell you, I bought a cheaper one first. It was horrible. And when you get out there with a rake or in that situation where you don't have a good one, you're going to be throwing that $400 at Home Depot for this thing, I promise you. All right, so let's come on out here, guys, and move on to the VAC Attack Leaf Mulcher by RYOBI. Now, this also came from Home Depot. It was priced at $179, but that did not come with a battery. With a battery, you're looking at about $219, and I bought this whole thing as a package deal, the VAC Attack, the battery, and the collapsible bag holder for $245. Now, that's about half the price of the leaf blower, so if you're thinking you need one of them and you can only afford one, I would say go with this. And this is why. As you can see, I have 3 bags of leaves out here right now, guys. Doing this by hand, which is how I started it, I got about 1 2-foot section, square 2-foot section in one bag. I had to get down on my hands and knees, start filling a bag that was hard to keep open because the wind's blowing, and then you're trying to keep it open while you grab these leaves with 2 hands to try to shove them in there. The leaves are going everywhere. It's a huge mess. It kills your back. And as I said, you get one bag out of a very small section of the leaves. I would be out here literally all day long to get this one pile of leaves done if I stuck with it that way. But this monster saved the day. Okay, so it's called the VAC Attack Leaf Mulcher. It is made by RYOBI, 40-volt lithium battery charged. Super easy to put together. It comes with this giant bag. As you suck the leaves, it comes up through here, it mulches them in here, and then fills the bag. That one bag right there, which is about 1/3 of the size of this bag, is holding all the leaves from 1/4 of this entire pile. This whole empty spot here that you see, all those leaves are mulched up and sucked up into that one bag right there. When this bag gets full, you detach it from there, you pull this, it unzips it, and you pour it right in this bag here. So this bag here is going to hold about 3 of those bags worth of leaves. Online it says that this will compress 16 bags of leaves into one bag of mulched leaves. Now, I don't know if we're going to meet that, but I would have to say that this section here that I've already done is at least 5 bags worth. So if we can fit 3 of these in one bag, that's basically 15 bags of leaves in one bag. Yeah, you can see how fine that mulches those up, and that's exactly why it fits so many in the bag compared to doing it that way. And in looking at how much that filled up this one bag, I would have to take back what I said earlier, and we're probably only going to get 2 of these bags in this one, but still, 10 bags of leaves in one bag from using the mulcher, I'll take that. So as you can see here, guys, that was 3 minutes and 41 seconds sped up. And using the RYOBI VAC Attack, we did another half of what was over here. Bagging that many by hand would have taken at least a half an hour if you were moving at top speed. It would have produced at least another 3 bags like you see here. But as you can see over here, it's only filled half of this bag. So 100%, guys, the RYOBI VAC Attack is a win. Now let me give you some of the pros and the cons of this. So starting with the price, because I think it's a great price for this. As I said earlier, it's $179 just for the mulcher and the bag. If you want the battery with it, which you obviously need the battery, it's going to cost $219. And then if you want to get this bagger right here, which I highly recommend, that brings it up to $245. The bagger just tops it off. Without the bagger, you're still in the same position where you're trying to hold the bag open while you put the mulch in. Number 2, as I've pointed out several times, you can compress 3 to 5 bags into one bag on here. You personally watched how easily it annihilated this half of the pile over here, and how easy it was to detach the bag, unzip it, and pour the leaves into here. Another awesome thing about this is that as this bag gets heavier with more leaves, there are actually wheels on the front there that you can just set it down and roll it like a vacuum cleaner. It also has this second handle here to make it much easier to control that bag, to move it around a little bit as it gets heavier. Now on to the negative things, and I'll tell you what, there's not too many. Number 1, it's pretty dirty. If you look at this, you can see just how dirty that is from it grinding up the leaves and spitting out dirt. Now, it's not enough where you're in like a cloud of dirt like Pigpen, or you need a mask so that you can breathe, but it is definitely dirty. You're crunching up leaves. I already mentioned how the bag gets heavier as it fills up with leaves. I don't know if you'd really call that a negative thing. It just makes it a little bit more difficult to handle. But that's completely expected, so it's not like it's a negative part of the product. It's just filling up with leaves, so naturally it's going to get heavier. Now, this does have a switch on here that lets you go from low to high, but I can't imagine you'd use anything but high, because you really need it turned on high in order to suck up these leaves. Even just these scattered leaves here, you would need it turned on high to suck those up. The whole point is to have a vacuum, and turned down low, I just can't see it sucking these up very well. As far as its functionality with a pile of leaves, I also wouldn't call this a negative thing, but you can't just go sticking it straight into the pile and think it's going to suck them all up. You have to use a sweeping motion back and forth, like you saw on my video, and you have to kind of whittle down the pile until you get lower, and then you can start using it like a vacuum to suck them up. Otherwise, even though it is mulching up in here, if you just jam that in there, it still is going to get all clogged up. And the last thing that I guess is sort of a negative is that after you take this bag off, you unzip it, and you're pouring it in here, it's kind of difficult to get them all poured out. You're standing there shaking the bag, you're squeezing it, squishing it, digging your hand in there to get the leaves out. But really, once you get them going, they all pour out pretty easily. It is a little dirty, but it's nothing that's intolerable for the 30 seconds it takes to empty the bag. And last but not least, the battery. The battery is pretty big. It's about the size, maybe a little bit bigger than the one on a leaf blower, but it really isn't all that heavy. It slides on the charger just like the rest of these, gives you a little blinking light to let you know it's charging, and it gives you a solid light when it's done. Now, how long it takes to charge the battery and how long it lasts, I honestly don't know. I got this thing this morning. FedEx dropped it off, I unpacked it, hooked it up, charged the battery for about a half an hour, and it did all of this. So based on that, I would have to say I have no complaints about that battery. Now granted, the battery is dead now. I just plugged it in there as you saw, so it can charge for a while before I finish the rest of these. But as I said, basically out of the box on a partial charge, it did all this, so I have no reason to believe that I won't be able to finish up the front yard on the next full charge. So there it is, guys, just under $700 for this stuff, and you make what is seemingly an impossible task much faster and much more tolerable. And I know that's a chunk of change, but remember, this is going to take you through years of leaf cleanup. If there's one thing I would do different about these products, guys, I would try to get the same brand in all the products. That way your batteries are interchangeable. The leaf blower, I have DEWALT. The leaf sucker, we have RYOBI. And these batteries are not interchangeable. So when one dies, you can't just go, oh, I got this one that has a full charge.
And I like the way you are, and now I want it all.